Everyone has probably heard this not the most pleasant voice, because its owner is a bird that is very widespread. And it is usually remembered for its bold behavior, because the impudence of these birds is quite difficult to overestimate. However, among other things, it is a very smart and intelligent bird that is capable of much. Meet the crow, a typical human neighbor, and it can be found both in rural areas and in large cities. And everywhere crows feel more than comfortable. In general, crows are the collective name for a group of birds, which, in addition to the crows themselves, also includes crows and rooks and jackdaws, although all of these are independent species. Crows, for example, can be distinguished only by their larger size, but in flight they also look more like predators, making more rare wing beats. The rook is more thermophilic and has a light beak, but the jackdaw is the smallest of all these four, has light blue eyes, and rarely grows more than 200 grams. The average weight of varan is usually 600 grams, and this gives them the opportunity to feel quite bold. For example, she can easily fly to the playground and ride on the swings all alone or kick a ball in the yard. This is not an isolated incident because the crows will not miss the chance to play with the ball and how they enjoy the snow. For example, this gray crow made himself a snowboard and rides it on the roof, and after each descent she grabs her equipment and brings it upstairs, and after riding she simply took her snowboard and flew away with it. And in this video, a whole group of crows ride from the roof. They sit on a snow-covered roof and roll down it, and then this rolling is repeated. And judging by the marks on the roof, there are enough of them who want to ride. And of course, for these purposes, they can find a car. Moreover, this crow even rolls head over heels. This is how they rejoice at the coming of winter, and they can use not only cars. Any pile of snow is suitable for skating, and these crows are generally extreme. They first bathe in icy water and then fly off to wipe themselves off with snow. Real feathered margies. And in the summer, they have plenty of entertainment. For example, what crows love most is to climb onto some branch upside down and think. True, not everyone succeeds, and these are Australian crows, and they also like to relax. In general, such curiosity indicates the well-developed intelligence of birds, and all corvids have succeeded in this matter. Most of the experiments were carried out with crows, and they showed brilliant results. It is believed that their intelligence is comparable to that of the great apes, and is comparable to a child of 4.5 years of age. For example, a crow can break a nut by dropping it onto the asphalt from a height. And if she finds a crust of bread, will she soak it in water? Moreover, they learn to use insects to help. Look, this is a jackdaw who decides to climb onto an anthill. Alarmed by such unceremonious behavior, the ants instantly attack the intruder with acid. But this is all the bird needs, because this is how it gets rid of parasites on its body. So these feathered neighbors are quite smart, and they do not tolerate any competition, even with cats, especially on the roof, because crows consider this their territory. The same thing happens in the trees, because monitor lizards definitely have an advantage there. But you definitely won't envy the cat here because she climbed very high. Yes, even on Earth, crows will never leave cats behind, humiliating them in every possible way. And it doesn't matter to them how many cats there are. On the contrary, if there are two of them, then the birds can bet on them helping their fighter. Here too, two gray crows clearly help this black cat in the battle. True, sometimes crows overestimate themselves and can run into an experienced cat. But nevertheless, being next to them is not at all a peaceful idea, and even dogs suffer. Especially those on a leash, because you don't even need to fly away from them. Although some dare to choose more dangerous targets, this crow, in my opinion, made the dogs very unpleasant. But do not forget that crows are omnivores, and they can hunt, for example, mice, rats, or even small snakes. And here the varans act very quickly, leaving no chance for the reptiles. Oh, true, you need to know who you can attack because sometimes such cases happen. This Australian crow was out of luck. But with mice, everything is generally simple because birds are much larger. We can only hope that the mouse will have time to run to some shelter. And in this video, the crows decided to act more cunningly. They found a cat with prey and began to press it. And when the cat was distracted, one of the varans jumped up and quickly stole the little mouse. And this happens in the urban jungle. In general, the omnivorous nature of monitor lizards lies the secret of their success because birds can adapt to their diet. These can be fruits, berries, plants, and insects such as rodents and lizards. And besides, they happily eat human waste and carrion. They often even follow stray dogs and then steal food from their hiding places. So even such impudent people as seagulls are not a hindrance to her. For example, here she came close to a dining seagull and, without thinking twice, grabbed her prey and quickly flew away. Apparently, the seagull ate for too long, because with only one species of varan, all the food needs to be swallowed quickly. Moreover, the crow does not give up, even when there are a lot of seagulls. At first, she pretends that she is not at all interested in food, and then, having lulled the vigilance of the seagulls, the crow grabs the cookie and quickly flies away from there. Birds, as a rule, do not enter into open confrontation, because seagulls are much stronger. Among other things, barons are famous for their good memory, and can remember who brings food and who causes harm. For example, if a stuffed crow is carried to a person in a mask like this, that flock will raise a loud cry, and if this person passes there the next time, he is guaranteed a noisy reception. But for example, in comparison with pigeons, it seems to me that they don't care who is in the girl's hands. The same thing will happen if you take the defense chicks into your hands. The flock will try with all its might to snatch it from captivity. They attack absolutely everyone, and it is better not to pass near them. They do the same thing when they see a predator, and crows will attack the red-tailed buzzard until it is a sufficient distance from the nests. And if a predator manages to grab one of the varans, the rest will make noise and fly over the enemy, trying to force him to let go of the prey. And of course, they also consider owls a potential threat. So when this nocturnal hunter is spotted, the entire flock flocks together. And the owl usually flies away because it is a very dangerous nocturnal predator, and if necessary, the owl can easily catch varan. But as you can see, these impudent people are not shy about pestering even the great eagle owl. They can mock even such a dangerous hunter as the marten. In the video, crows chased a marten into a tree, so high that something can't get down, but the crow swings the branch as if on purpose. Later, even more varan joined the marten hunt. And there was nothing left to do but jump from the height of the 5th floor to the ground. But immediately after landing, the marten ran on as if nothing had happened. And of course, crows won't sit still if such a thing disturbs their space. Watch how quickly the crow flies up to the drone and begins its attack. True, the postal drone survived and even managed to unload the parcel. As for the population, these adapted birds are not exactly in danger of extinction. Even in the wild, these birds can easily live 15-20 years, and in captivity they can live up to 40, which is very good for birds. And although in some large cities there is now a decrease in the number of varan, scientists attribute this to the mechanisms of internal regulation of numbers. These feathered neighbors turned out to be so smart and curious. Do you remember any interesting cases with crows? Fluffy ones are one of the easiest prey for an eagle, because the predator can maneuver delicately in the air. They even use special hairs on motorcycles to train birds. By the way, they look quite impressive, and their maneuverability is also excellent. Although it is not difficult for a golden eagle to catch such a racer. But a mechanical toy is one thing, but a living hare or rabbit is completely different, because they have one secret trick up their sleeve. Look, during the chase, the rabbit turns sharply and jumps up with all its strength until it easily jumps over the eagle. And in this way, not a single long-eared animal managed to escape from the predator. Moreover, such tricks work not only with eagles, but also with other birds of prey. Although a true master acts quickly and clearly, and this rabbit has no chance of escaping. And look how effectively this predator hunts foxes. Despite the fact that these are quite large animals, the eagle will never give up on foxes. Just look at these incredible interceptions. And here he sharply cuts the trajectory and falls like a stone on the fox, knock it down. In the same way, he can easily drive away the forest if the eagle needs it. And in this video, the fox manages to dodge the claws of a golden eagle. Again the attack, but the sly fox leaves again. And even for the 3rd time, she escapes from the eagle's claws, falling to the ground. But on the 4th attempt, the golden eagle strikes accurately, In general, in nature, foxes often become prey for large eagles, and even with such heavy prey, they can take off. I can't even believe that this isn't a montage, so they are not to be trifled with. And even the crowd of black vultures makes way when Burkett flies in to see what the gathering is all about. And this is a martial eagle, perhaps the most daring bird in Africa. For example, he can easily attack a warthog piglet when they appear in the hunter's field of view, and then simply grab it with his claws and walk back as if nothing had happened. And it attacks the bird without any hesitation, because the hunter's assets are very powerful and tenacious. Therefore, even vultures can fall from the claws of this fighter. Just look at his look. What about vultures? This lawless beast can even attack a leopard. Although, of course, this will do little harm to the cats, but it will easily make them angry. And the leopard will not miss the moment to show who is boss here. Here, of course, the martial eagle has no chance, but still the bird is quite brave, and it especially likes to attack monitor lizards, because they usually do not look up, and an eagle's attack is always unexpected for them. The martial eagle lands directly on the back of its prey and sinks its talons into it. Moreover, monitor lizards are quite tenacious and can carry an eagle on their back for a long time. Some of them try to hide in the water, but the eagle prudently drags its prey away from there. They often attack the monitor lizard in the eyes so that it is unable to move. So this bird rightfully received its name as a fighting bird. And this is a forest or wildcat. He hunts pigeons. And of course, such a clever hunter will not be left without prey. But the cat senses that he is being followed and starts running. True, the stone halo easily overtakes the target and throws the cat along with the prey. It's better to leave the dove and go quietly. These winged hunters can even attack large ungulates, such as antelopes. They land on top and start clawing at the back. And if the eagle is not scared away, then its prey will die long and painfully. And golden eagles can easily attack young deer. They dive at high speed and tend to knock down their target. But even if the deer remains on its feet, the golden eagle tightly clings to it with its claws and begins to finish it off with its beaks. And getting rid of such a hunter is a very difficult task. Although this deer apparently learned the trick from the hares and managed to outwit the golden eagle, but these are chamois and they are already much more active. See how your relatives help someone in trouble. So the golden eagle is clearly having a hard time here. However, for Cerna, this is a dangerous opponent who often gets his way. In addition, the eagle's wings have enormous strength, and it can lift even adult ungulates into the air. I can't even imagine how he manages to soar with such a huge goat. And this is his close relative, the white-tailed eagle. And although it belongs to a different genus, it is no less interesting to hunt. This predator mainly relies on fishing. Sometimes he is able to snatch such specimens from the water. But often Orlan changes his target. This whitetail tries to attack a Canada goose, but it knows how to defend itself. He simply dives under the water, beating the attack of this formidable bird. And the goose acts quite well because the eagle just can't grab it. However, the hunter was very persistent. And on one of his runs, he caught the goose with his claws and, without stopping, flew away. Unfortunately, this is the law of the wild. These rulers of the sky turned out to be so strong, smart, and cunning. Meet the milky white beauty of the polar owl, one of the most unusual representatives of the family of real owls. After all, living in one of the harshest regions forced the bird to make a number of adaptations with its body, which was done. But first things first, the polar owl is the largest of all owls and can reach a body length of up to 70 centimeters. At the same time, the wingspan of such a bird reaches 70 inches and weighs up to 6 pounds. True, this is largely due to the special plumage of the owl. It is very dense, and the owl is covered in feathers from beak to talons. Moreover, on its legs the plumage is more like wool, and even similar hairs are formed. But this outfit helps the bird to calmly endure strong winds and frosts up to 50 degrees. After all, the owl lives in the tundra zones of Eurasia, North America, Greenland, and even on the islands of the Arctic Ocean. Open terrain, minimal shelter, and a lot of snow leave their mark on the animals living there. Therefore, the polar owl is the only one of all owls that has such light plumage. The protective coloration gives it perfect camouflage and makes the owl almost invisible, especially when it flies close to the surface. By the way, you can distinguish between males and females by the color of their plumage, because females have more brown spots, while adult males are almost completely white. Already by the appearance of the owl, it becomes clear that this is a typical predator, because the strongly curved beak and huge powerful claws cannot speak of anything else. And the polar owl knows his business very well. For example, she has excellent eyesight, which is facilitated by her large, bright yellow eyes. By the way, whiskers lack eyeballs, and their organs of vision should be called ocular tubes, so the look of the mustache is quite expressive. True, it looks like they are either annoyed or shocked. Because of this shape, the eyes practically do not move. But the birds found a way out. This is a super mobile neck. Look, an owl can turn its head 140 degrees in each direction. Thus, without changing her position, she surveys the perimeter around her at 280 degrees without pinching blood vessels. So an owl can easily spot even the smallest prey in the snow. Well then, one of the most important abilities of a predator comes into play. Listen, for example, to how a dove flies. This is the falcon, and this is the owl. And although this is a non-polar barn owl, the principle is the same. Even sensitive microphones do not pick up anything. It's all about special feathers. On the front of the wings, they are very rigid and do not create air turbulence, but on the back they, on the contrary, are extremely soft and flexible, which allows them to dampen air vibrations. Well, the soft poo on the body and legs acts as a sound absorber without reflecting it from itself. So the owl flies almost silently, and the unsuspecting mouse easily becomes the prey of this hunter. And the owl's hearing is also excellent. Not only is it almost 4 times sharper than that of a cat, but during the hunt, the owl also makes circular movements with its head. In this way, it compares the intensity of the sound from the target and determines its location very accurately. Even under the snow, it is extremely difficult to hide from this white hunter. The volley thinks she is safe, but she is not. The owl jumps from the tree and rushes to intercept. She flies as low as possible above the ground and at the right moment releases her sharp claws. The goal is captured, although this does not always happen. Her efficiency is 45%, which, however, is still very good. And such a hunt always looks very beautiful because the polar owl is a specialist in hunting such small rodents. And in a year, each such hunter eats approximately 1,600 lemmings and mice, which helps control their numbers. And by the way, unlike other species, this owl tries to hunt only during the day, well, of course, with the exception of the polar night. But when it comes to procreation, like many birds, owls take this seriously. Often the male, who is usually noticeably smaller, takes care of the female, bringing her various treats, and an ordinary hole in the ground, which is lined with down, is used as a place for the nest. The number of eggs in a clutch will depend on the amount of food, and can be either 5 to 6 or more than 10. Although in hungry years, polar owls may not breed at all. The female lays 1 egg every 2 days, so the chicks are all of different ages, and the younger ones have much less chance of survival. This dead chick became food for its brothers in the tundra. Nothing is wasted. All this time, the female usually guards the chicks, and the male searches for food. And he does this very successfully. And the female already divides the prey between the chicks. Moreover, even such a small owlet can eat a whole lemming entirely. True, I think he was surprised himself, although the polar owl can easily hunt down birds. Moreover, these are not always small birds. For example, here a polar owl looks out for potential prey among the ducks. And this predator actually managed to catch a large Canadian goose, so they are not to be trifled with. Moreover, when the chicks are born, the owls become extremely aggressive. They protect their nest from any danger. Look, as soon as the worker entered the aviary, the male immediately took off and went on the attack. Moreover, this attack continued further. It's good that the employee knew where he was going and took care of protection. But this behavior of owls clearly causes admiration. And the female, by the way, does not stand aside either. So in the wild, they are able to fend for themselves, and owls will attack anyone who approaches the nest within a radius of kilometers. For example, singers pose a great danger to the Soviets, and parents will try with all their might to drive them away from the nest. Look how the owl swoops down on the Arctic fox, and he, of course, hastened to get away. Although Arctic foxes are not always so timid, and owls often try to divert their attention to themselves. Usually the owl sits next to the predator and, as it were, flirts with it, gradually flying further and further. So it's a pretty smart bird. Therefore, many other birds try to nest next to the snowy owl because this way they are protected. But with the crows, apparently, they have quite a warm relationship. Moreover, this is not an isolated case. Although, why be surprised? Because even with a dog, a polar owl can have such tenderness. And in general, owls can be quite talkative. For example, they can scream, hiss, and even chirp, as if they were a songbird. But she is fearless with her enemies. For example, skuas can easily destroy a nest and eat the chicks, so the owl desperately defends itself. She spreads her wings, preparing to attack, and meets the enemy with her claws. The skua will not pass such a defender, but the polar wolf is a more dangerous threat. But the owl, without hesitation, rushes water and attacks the white enemy. She attacks again and again until the wolf leaves the nest. As for the population, unfortunately, polar owls are disappearing throughout their habitat. This is due to gradual climate change, human settlement of hard-to-reach territories, and even the amount of pasture. And the abundance of enemies cannot but affect life expectancy, because in the wild, it is only 9 years. At the same time, in captivity, polar owls live, on average, 3 times longer. Let's hope that our descendants will be able to see this beautiful northern bird, not only in pictures. This polar beauty turned out to be so fearless. Meet the shrike, a small songbird that weighs about 30-40 grams and is comparable in size to the same sparrow. Its modest color does not distinguish it from other small birds. Only the long tail makes the bird's silhouette very similar to a magpie, which is why it got its name. After all, shrike means to confuse with a magpie. But in terms of its character, it will give many predators a run for their money. Its name in Latin sounds like Balaeniceps, which translates as executioner or butcher. And for this, it has acquired a solid beak. It is not only powerful for its size, but also has a curved hook at the end, which is more reminiscent of hawks, owls, falcons, but not passerines, which include shrikes. Thanks to such a weapon, it acts like a real racketeer. It flies in quickly, grabs its prey with its beak, and flies away just as quickly. Its target may not only be various bugs and spiders. This hunter prefers to get rodents, reptiles, and even birds of comparable size. Just look how quickly it flies to a flock of birds and grabs an unsuspecting sparrow. After which, it begins to finish it off with its beak. And of course, the feathered prey has no chance here. It is dangerous even for a person to hold it with bare hands because the bird's bites, despite its size, are very strong. It can even hang in the air, but not release its grip. And of course, it can easily grab prey from a person's hands, immediately flying away. And here it is, lightning fast, attacking a titmouse in the air. In slow motion, you can see how the shrike flies up and attacks with its beak in flight. However, the titmouse was able to fly away, and the chase continued. Even birds in a cage are no obstacle for it, and the shrike can kill in a few seconds. The famous 20th century ornithologist Leonid Camargo described this songbird as a real executioner. He told of cases when a shrike, placed in a cage with other birds, tore off all their heads in a few minutes. So this bird was very lucky that it managed to escape from the cage and save its life. Moreover, shrikes, especially the gray shrike, are real obsessed hunters. They can pursue their target for a long time, constantly attacking it, luring it out of an ambush, swooping down with loud cries, and even hovering in the air while hunting. So other birds are afraid of it like fire. Within a radius of 160 feet from the nest of these feathered maniacs, a kind of exclusion zone is formed. And since there are no small birds there, then large birds do not hunt there either, which only plays into the hands of our hero. Even crows and magpies try to fly around the shrike's home. Although this fearless executioner is not afraid to attack even such a large predator as a short-toed snake eagle. Apparently, many species of shrikes have a black bandage on their eyes. But it does not hunt birds very often. The gray shrike mainly does this because it is the largest of its relatives. It reaches the size of a fieldfare and weighs up to 80 grams. Moreover, it hunts birds mainly in winter, when it is more difficult to find food. Usually its targets are rodents and small reptiles. For example, a shrike easily and quickly deals with a mouse, after which it climbs on it and begins to scream victoriously. Apparently, their singing past is taking its toll, and in this way, the birds benefit farmers by destroying pests. By the way, they control the number of small birds and are generally very useful and protected species. Even snakes are unable to resist these arrogant and fast hunters, and they cannot do anything against the beaks of shrikes. Therefore, what can we say about smaller reptiles like lizards? For them, such battles have absolutely no chance. Although this lizard managed to grab the bird very well by the beak and it cannot throw it off. But in such fights, as a rule, the result is the same. And then the most interesting thing begins. After the hunt, he grabs the prey with his beak and flies away to a tree or bush. Moreover, the bird chooses branches that have more thorns. Even barbed wire will do, and then the shrike simply impales its prey on the spike and begins to eat. Such feeding looks very ominous because lizards, rodents, and even birds can end up on the thorns. He does the same thing with caterpillars, grasshoppers, and other unlucky creatures, although shrikes easily eat the smallest insects right away. By the way, he plants grasshoppers for a reason. The fact is that many species are very toxic and unsuitable for food immediately after capture. But when they lie in the sun for several days, all toxins are neutralized and the prey can be eaten. So one can only envy the ingenuity of this bird. It is worth noting that they especially like to eat animal brains. And when there is a lot of prey, such a bush is hung with many bodies. Now I think you can guess why its name is translated from Latin as butcher. And I think we should be happy that this bird is so small. But the shrike cannot feed differently, because its claws are quite weak, and the thorn acts as a kind of retainer. True, we still need to get to the branch. If the prey is heavy, the bird climbs the tree trunk with it until it finds a convenient place. But despite such frightening behavior, these are excellent parents who create strong families. The pair also builds a nest together. The male brings building materials, and the female makes a nest out of them. Moreover, she covers the inside with soft fluff for greater comfort. And if necessary, the female will defend her nest no worse than the male. It is usually built near the pantry, and in the spring, 4 to 5 eggs are laid in the nest, and the male tries to fill his pantry as much as possible by the time the chicks are born. So there are usually no problems with food, as well as with cleaning the nest. After all, the parents constantly eat dirty feathers, replacing them with new ones. And some of the birds go even further in the matter of cleaning. But as it usually happens, not all survive, but only the oldest chicks. They grow quickly and are ready for independent life in 20 days, although nothing prevents them from flying to their parents for a snack before autumn.
Shoebill royal heron bootbeak, as soon as this unusual bird is not called. And by the way, it can be considered as an intermediate link between the ancestors of the bird in the age of dinosaurs and modern birds. This is a very rare and very poorly studied species. Shoebill is the only representative of the shoebill family, which is part of the stork-shaped order. Thus, its closest relatives are storks and pelicans and herons, although they look little alike. May the royal heron forgive me, but she has a rather ridiculous appearance. It feels like they just took parts from different animals and covered each other. Only one beak is worth something. It's so huge that it seems as if it has been enlarged 100 times. In addition, it is very similar to a shoe, which served as the second name of the bird. Well, okay, let's not offend her.
Shoebill is a huge bird, the height of the body which can be up to 5 feet, and the weight sometimes reaches 35 pounds. At the same time, the wingspan of an adult can be up to 8 feet. The bird's head deserves a separate story. It is so large that it is about the same width as the body of a royal heron. Powerful masticatory muscles are quite large and well visible. Well, the most prominent part, a large, long, and powerful beak. All this good is held by the neck, which is so thin that you wonder how it copes with this whole task. It is not easy to carry such a powerful beak, so the bird puts it on his chest from time to time to rest. The bird's legs are also quite unusual. They are long, thin, and have widely spaced toes. The image of a hungry prehistoric creature is completed by a tuft of feathers, which makes it even a little funny. By the way, the bird looks very much like a disgruntled professor. The royal heron lives only in Africa. It has chosen swampy areas. Other large populations are found on the territory of South Sudan and Zaire. Shoebill is perfectly adapted to life in swamps thanks to its legs. They create minimal pressure on the soil and allow you not to fall through. A heavy bird. Toes are widely spaced and can reach up to 7 inches in length. Shoebills don't just walk through the swamps. Here they get their own food because, as you understand from the name, they mainly eat fish. Shoebill's favorite food is longfish, such as Protoptera, tilapia, and catfish, but it can also eat a frog, a snake, and even a small crocodile. This is a real swamp fighter. Unlike most birds, Shoebill's eyes are located in the front of the skull, which means that binocular vision is available to him, allowing him to focus on his target. In other birds, the eyes are located on the sides to quickly notice the danger and fly away. But who would dare to attack the royal heron? And he's also a lazy guy. If you walk next to the whaleheads, he won't even move. The bird is distinguished by great patience. A whalehead can stand in shallow water for hours without moving and wait for a fish to appear. Then a big, powerful beak comes into play, which, by the way, has a sharp hook at the end. It makes it easy to grab slippery prey in the swampy quagmire. Such hunting usually takes several hours, and all this time the bird stands still. Therefore, in one of the European zoos, it is written on the information signs, "He is still moving." Well, sometimes these birds change tactics. They carefully walk through the swamp and look for prey themselves, or they can smoke fish to the surface, muddying the water with their feet. In general, this is a real cunning. During such a hunt, in addition to fish, a lot of garbage gets into the beak. Therefore, the whalehead first comes ashore, sorts the prey, and only then eats it. For example, here the whalehead grabbed the protopter and immediately began to clean the fish from garbage. After that, he calmly ate the prey and did not even forget to wash his beak. And here tilapia became the prey of this skilled hunter. But in the zoo, they relax, because the food literally goes into their mouths by itself. Despite its intimidating appearance, it is quite a calm and kind bird. In addition, she is distinguished by good manners. For example, if you approach and bow down, then Shoebill will do the same in return. That's such aristocratic behavior. Herons and ibises often use Shoebill as a bodyguard. They gather in flocks around a large and strong bird, feeling safe. The royal heron is fine with this, but she does not like her relatives. And even in densely populated areas, there is usually a distance of at least 60 feet between the birds. But in zoos, this is not always possible, so sometimes conflicts break out between them. However, they are monogamous and create one pair for life. In the wild, the courtship ritual has not been studied, but in captivity, birds begin to shake their heads, stretch their necks, and make muffled sounds. Therefore, if you see this behavior, Shoebill, know that he liked you. The bird also makes a royal nest for itself. In diameter, it reaches not much more than 8 feet. The material for it is the stems of papyrus and reeds lying everywhere, so there are no problems with this. But the reed is hard enough, so soft dry grass is used for the inside of the shoebill nest. When everything is ready, the female lays from 1 to 3 eggs, and the process of hatching the whale begins. The heads are excellent parents, and both take turns sitting on the nest. They even cool the eggs if necessary, using their beak as a scoop. And after 30 days, the shoebill family is replenished. However, usually only one of all hatched chicks survives. Both parents will often turn the eggs upside down. The chicks of this bird are covered with thick silver-gray down and already have a wide mouth. However, the large beak that these birds are known for does not begin to manifest until the Arab month old. When they are born, the parents take turns feeding the chicks with ground food. Upon reaching the age of 1 month, parents begin to leave prey in the nest so that young birds can swallow it. Plumage occurs at 95 days, and by 125 days, the chicks become independent. People have known about whale-whaling storks for a very long time. They were first described in writing in ancient Egypt, so it's surprising that we know relatively little about them compared to other species. However, what we do know demonstrates some amazing biological concepts. It is reported that the Arabs called the bird Abu Markub, or father of the slipper. So, is there anything cool about the bill other than it's gigantic? Looks like shoes and can decapitate crocodiles. Of course, they make cool machine gun sounds. Shoebills are silent most of the time, but they'll rumble around the nest or greet another bird. This loud and frightening sound is the last sound that many poor lizards will ever hear. The shape of the bird's beak is designed for eating certain types of food and provides a great clue to what is the main source of food. Shoebill flies well, and with a wingspan of more than 8 feet, this sight looks very exciting. It even becomes somehow uncomfortable. He can also sunbathe in the sun, sitting comfortably by the pond, or take a bath and cool off. And when he gets bored, Shoebill can dance. In general, he lives for his own pleasure and does not deny himself anything. But everything is not so rosy. These are quite rare birds. Their number does not exceed 15,000 individuals. As usual, thanks for that. It is necessary to tell people who destroy the habitual habitat of birds by draining the swamp. In addition, some people ruin the nests of whaleheads using eggs for food.
Australia is teeming with dangerous creatures that can easily send you to your ancestors. Venomous snakes, spiders, crocodiles, you name it. But then there are the birds, which delight the eye of the tourist with their bright feathers. But not so fast. This is the last bird I'd want to meet. Meet the handsome fellow that inhabits the tropical forests of Australia, the cassowary. Although, as in Australia, the bulk of the cassowaries have chosen the territory of New Guinea and its surrounding islands, which they have clearly divided among themselves and try not to appear in someone else's area. After all, these birds have a nasty temperament. But more on that later. Horned head. That's how the bird's name translates from Papuan. Just look at it. It's a real live dinosaur. A bony helmet on its head, a predatory gaze, a massive body, and huge legs, as if hinting that you should stay away from this bird. And for good reason. Cassowaries can grow to almost 6.5 feet tall and weigh up to 130 pounds. True, its height isn't very noticeable because the cassowary moves slightly bent over toward the ground. It looks like a big turkey or a maxed-out ostrich. Meanwhile, the cassowary is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the most dangerous bird on the planet. And every year, at least one Australian leaves this world precisely from an encounter with a cassowary. It doesn't have venom, but this is one of those cases where a bad temper and solid size more than make up for its absence. The cassowary's beak isn't very big and usually doesn't pose a threat. It's the legs, or I should say paws. They are so powerful, as if they were 2 giant wooden pillars. With them, the bird can easily give a kick to anyone who seems even slightly dangerous. And it doesn't matter if it's a dog or a human. In addition, they end in rather large claws, among which there are combat claws, reaching 6 inches in length. Poor manicurists. Such claws, like knives, cut into the body of the offender, and little good it does him. It definitely won't seem like it. And even if you try to run from it, you're unlikely to succeed, because its powerful legs propel its body up to 30 miles per hour. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that cassowaries, while very similar to ostriches, belong to their own order. The cassowary order, which besides the cassowaries themselves, also includes emus. Yes, emus aren't ostriches either. They used to fly, but then they realized that walking on the ground was much more convenient. Therefore, wings, along with the keel bone, were reduced in cassowaries, and even their feathers started to resemble fur, so they have a peculiar appearance. In general, there are 3 types of cassowaries. and the southern cassowary is the coolest and the largest of them. It chose the southern coast of New Guinea with an average elevation above sea level. The northern cassowary got the lowland tropical forests, while the dwarf cassowary, being the smallest, settled in the mountain forests. Although, if there are no larger neighbors around, it can descend to sea level. The bird's warlike appearance is further enhanced by its nasty temper. Cassowaries are very easy to anger and provoke. Then it will rush after the offender. The cassowary will kick him with its powerful legs. At the same time, it's hard to understand what displeased His Majesty. Even zoo workers often fall out of favor with cassowaries. But there's a trick here. It's best to approach it holding some long object, like a shelf or a broom. After all, the cassowary won't attack anything taller than itself. Or, as a last resort, it's good to have a similar wooden shield to protect yourself from meeting the bird. In Australia, they even use special road signs indicating cassowaries. And in parks, you can find signs like this: "Keep an eye on your dogs, or I'm not responsible." This behavior is observed even in young cassowaries. For example, this cassowary thought it met a fellow cassowary, and of course, it needed to show its strength. Look how it jumps and strikes the car with powerful blows. I think a real opponent would have been scared knowing the cassowary's character. People are very careful about the unexpected appearance of such birds. Of course, it's better to give it your picnic spot than to get a kick with a leg like that. And they always give it space for bathing too. Like any self-respecting fighter, all cassowary species have a bony helmet on their head. Scientists argue about its purpose. According to one version, it's a resonator for the voice. According to another, it protects the head during movement through the jungle. After all, cassowaries run like this. But invariably, such a growth indicates the animal's sexual maturity. After that, you might think that the cassowary is a dangerous and bloodthirsty forest dweller. But even here, the bird can surprise you. The fact is that it feeds mainly on fruits. No, of course, it can eat a snake, frog, or snail, but it prefers fruit much more, which is abundant in the forest. Simply lower your head down, and there it is. It's so fast at eating fruit, the cassowary would give anyone a run for their money. Look how easily the bird disposes of a huge mango. It simply takes it and swallows it whole. At the same time, it can eat several such large fruits in one meal, and after 5 hours, the undigested food waste is excreted naturally. And then a new tree appears in place of such a pile. Cassowaries, without knowing it, are engaged in a very useful business, spreading seeds throughout the forest. And they are an important part of the ecosystem. After all, the bird's diet includes over 100 species of tropical fruits. So if you buy mangoes in the store, know that they most likely appeared. Not very appetizing, is it? Sometimes such piles fall past the target. Strangely enough, such processing of seeds even increases their germination rate. For example, the germination rate of the greater bird of paradise seeds is usually only 4%, whereas, after processing by cassowaries, this figure increases to 92%. And some plant species are spread exclusively thanks to these birds. Cassowaries can eat very toxic fruits that other animals would be poisoned by. Fruits pass through the digestive system very quickly and do not harm the birds. As I said, male cassowaries are very aggressive, but females are larger, heavier, and taller. Their behavior is more aggressive, and even their coloring, strangely enough, is brighter. And that means the click-clack of heels can be heard somewhere. It even gets to the point that male cassowaries, while sorting out their relationships, can scatter in different directions if a female appears nearby. But if the female likes the male, she begins to lure him with her tender voice. Just try not to approach. Cassowaries don't have a specific period. The pair stays together for about 2 weeks. During this time, the male builds a nest where the female lays 3 to 8 very beautiful green eggs. Each of them can weigh more than 500 grams. After that, the female goes off in an unknown direction, or rather, to another male. For 2 whole months, the father incubates the clutch and then spends about a year raising, feeding, and teaching the children. During this time, he becomes especially aggressive and will kill anyone who gets in his way if the chicks are in the slightest danger. He attacks the opponent without hesitation, even if it's their mother. However, cassowaries try to settle in secluded corners of the forest, far from humans and other neighbors. The chicks are born completely different from their parents and have a light brown color with dark stripes. But already after a few hours, they are able to run and will constantly follow their father. They even bathe together. However, during meals, everyone is for themselves. Here, the father has the advantage, and the young ones get only scraps. But the most interesting thing is that he is not the biological father of these children, and his children will be born to another male. This is how it happens unusually in cassowaries. Interestingly, this tradition originated in flightless birds from dinosaurs. Archaeologists have discovered several fossilized clutches of eggs with dinosaurs incubating them, and in all cases, they were males. The cassowary has few natural enemies. Besides humans, only wild boars and dingoes can be mentioned, and even those don't attack adults, but can only raid the clutch. As for humans, they have hunted these beautiful birds for centuries. Currently, the population of southern and northern cassowaries is no more than 10,000 individuals each, and they are considered vulnerable. Protective measures are being taken, but obtaining accurate statistics on the birds is difficult due to their secretive lifestyle and the poor development of New Guinea. Nighttime hunters with an unusual appearance, big heads and enormous eyes, symbols of wisdom, intelligence, and for many people, a love of sleeping in. But who are they, and why are these birds attributed with such extraordinary abilities? In fact, they make up an entire order called Strigiformes, and they include not only owls, but also barn owls. So burrowing owls, long-eared owls, screech owls, great horned owls, and even, with some stretching of the definition, barn owls. All these are owls. This powerful clan encompasses around 200 species. They inhabit every continent and every climate, from the scorching sands of Dubai to the frigid tundras and steppes. You can tell just by looking at them that owls are predators. Their hooked beaks and sharp talons give it away. But these birds have turned hunting into an art form, elevating it to a completely different level. What do you need for successful nighttime hunting? First and foremost, excellent hearing. After all, you can't see much at night, and owls have exceptional hearing. Their big heads, resembling satellite dishes, seem designed for capturing sound. A ring of stiff feathers directs sound to their ears, which are hidden and located on the sides of their heads. What's more, many owl species, like the great grey owl, have asymmetrical ears, with one ear positioned higher than the other, receiving sound waves with a time difference. This helps the owl quickly determine the height and distance of the sound source, making it possible to pinpoint a target with precision, even under 8 inches of snow. The owl just needs to fly to the right spot and sink its talons into the snow. Those tufts of feathers sticking out on the heads of some owls don't actually mark the location of their ears. They just indicate their mood, perhaps. And you can identify certain types of owls by the shape of their head. For example, great horned owls have a facial disc that is noticeably less prominent than that of the barn owl, which is usually the largest and heart-shaped. But hearing a target is only half the battle. You also have to find it in the dark without bumping into anything. That's where their eyesight comes in, and it's pretty amazing too. Their eyes are their trademark. All owls have huge eyes, meaning they let in more light, which is essential in low-light conditions. On top of that, owls have dispensed with light-sensitive cones in their retinas, replacing them with rods. As a result, their vision is virtually black and white, but they only need a minimal amount of light to navigate. Moreover, their vision doesn't get worse in the daytime, because they can shrink the size of their pupils. And some species, such as many great horned owls, including snowy owls, often hunt during the day. Their eyes are so incredible that they have a skeleton. It's hard to believe, but that's what an owl's skull looks like. Their eyes sit fixed in the skull, essentially like binoculars built into the skull. That's why owls have such a peculiar appearance. In fact, the owl's skull is quite small, and besides the eyes, there's virtually nothing else that can fit inside. They take up a whopping 30% of the head's mass, whereas in humans, they only account for 1%. So, if you look closely into an owl's ear, you can see the back of its eye. So, I wouldn't recommend calling yourself an owl. They compensate for their limited eye movement with an incredibly flexible neck, capable of rotating 270 degrees. Sitting on a branch, the hunter can see virtually everything happening around it. After all, it has 14 cervical vertebrae at its disposal. To prevent the owl from getting dizzy during these turns, they have twice as many blood vessels supplying the brain as humans do. Of course, you have to take care of such amazing eyes, and owls have 3 sets of eyelids. One for blinking, one for flying, and one for sleeping. What's more, Owls close their eyes while eating, but not out of pleasure, just because they're taking precautions in case their meal tries to fight back. An owl's wings are a true work of art. They allow the owl to fly in complete silence. There was even an experiment that compared the sounds of a pigeon, a falcon, and an owl in flight. An owl flew over microphones without making practically any noise at all. This is all thanks to the unique structure of their feathers. They have small serrations on their tips that break up turbulent airflow and transform it into smooth laminar airflow, gliding over the wings. What's more, the soft fringe on the owl's wings muffles the noise they make, and the owl's wings are quite large in proportion to its body. This allows them to flap less, which means they make less noise, so their prey is completely oblivious until the very last moment. By the way, great horned owls are missing this feature, and there's a slight hum from their flight. As for their diet, owls primarily eat rodents. They are very easy to track and catch, and they can even do it during the day. Polar owls, for example, have no choice but to hunt during the day, since the day lasts for 6 months up there. To survive and feed their families, an owl needs to catch about 1,600 lemmings a year. And often, it's the father who does this, since the mother first incubates the eggs and then cares for the owlets. But the male never forgets his family and constantly supplies them with rodents. He's also smaller than the female, by the way, which is rare for birds. Owls can't chew their food and swallow it whole, along with fur, claws, and feathers. That's why they have developed a second stomach to help them digest. In their first stomach, the food is squeezed as if under a press, and all the juices and nutrients pass into the second stomach, where they're digested. The bones, teeth, and skulls are compressed into a small, dense pellet, which is then expelled just like your own. So if you have an owl, be sure to feed it whole prey. Otherwise, it could get sick. By the way, owls lack that ability, silent flight, so parents carefully feed them soft pieces of meat. Owls typically lay 3 to 10 eggs, and the number directly depends on the rodent population. They don't build nests as such, they usually just dig a hole in the ground or take over an existing one. Owls start incubating from the first egg laid, and the owlets have a noticeable age difference. The situation is further complicated by the parents feeding the oldest owlets more, increasing this gap even further. And sometimes, especially if food is scarce, the older siblings might eat the younger ones. Let's take a look at what owls are capable of in action. Owls don't just hunt mice. For example, they love to catch ground squirrels. Even though this one came out of its burrow during the day, this barred owl isn't afraid of a little chase. But the ground squirrel is no slouch, and it runs through the bushes like a madman. But that doesn't stop the owl, and it displays incredible maneuvering skills. No wonder such a skillful hunter eventually gets what it wants. Even agile forest dwellers like squirrels can fall prey to owls. This is a barred owl, by the way. And this flying squirrel decided to indulge in a bird feeder. But owls always keep an eye on such spots, especially at night. So it's no surprise that a winged predator swooped down on it just seconds later. But sometimes rodents get lucky. This rat managed to escape from the owl's landing spot at the very last minute. The hunter was so surprised that it didn't even try to chase such a bold prey, though they can choose bigger targets. For example, this is a great horned owl or a Virginia owl, and it's very dangerous. Weighing over 3.5 pounds, it can attack prey larger than itself. Today, its target is a pair of ducks, swimming carelessly in the woods. But it's best to wait for nightfall. That's when the hunter's superpowers activate, and it sets out to hunt. Flying silently, the owl lands directly on the duck, and there's no escaping. What about smaller prey, like baby rabbits? They're completely defenseless against great horned owls. Though an adult rabbit has a chance of survival, it constantly runs in circles and confuses the snowy owl. The owl makes several attempts to attack, but the long-eared rabbit is out of reach. Therefore, owls never shy away from easy prey. If they find a nest unattended, they'll inevitably attack the chicks, even if the mother is there. The owl won't think twice about attacking. It easily throws a blue heron out of its nest with its talons and then returns to eat the helpless chicks. Owls are incredibly strong. Just look how easily this Virginia owl throws an adult robin out of its nest. And this owl attacked grown robin chicks, but the mother was nearby and knocked the owl out of the nest with a kick of its legs. It's not afraid to attack even peregrine falcon nests. Falcons are incredibly fast, and they have no equal in the sky. but they're quite small birds, so owls often take advantage of that. In these shots, a Virginia owl attacks peregrine falcon chicks. The mother immediately engages in a fight with the predator and drives it off. But it's unclear what damage the owl's sharp talons inflicted on the chicks. Even if the mother is in the nest, no one is safe from an owl's attack. Just like that, it grabs one of the chicks by the leg and disappears into the night. The mother screams frantically, but it's no use. And it seems like owls have taken a liking to attacking this peregrine falcon nest, because they visit it very often. They can even attack eagles. In these shots, the owl attacks a golden eagle and knocks it down. Just look at those eyes getting closer in the dark. Larger bald eagles wouldn't be able to so easily shake off an owl, of course. But eagles build good nests, and owls always want to take them over. So owls often harass eagles at night, just to make life a little harder. There's constant fighting between them over these nests, and it goes back and forth. This owl has taken over a red-tailed hawk's nest, but the owner isn't going to give up without a fight. First, they have a talon battle right in the nest, but they're about evenly matched. Then the hawk flies off and attacks the intruder just seconds later. Watch how the owl leaps up and meets its enemy with its talons. It somersaults in the air, hitting a tree, and then flies down. So it's not enough to just take over a nest. You have to defend it, although owls usually don't have a problem with this. For example, here's how a snowy owl defends itself against enemies. First, it spreads its wings to make itself look bigger. But if that doesn't work, it leaps up, meeting the attacker with its sharp talons. It's very aggressive if strangers are near its nest. It will attack them from above, and they'd be wise to get out of the way. Virginia owls do the same thing. They take turns attacking a raccoon climbing a tree. Because the raccoon is a dangerous enemy that could easily destroy their nests and eat all the eggs, they have to be really aggressive. But these pigeons must not be very bright, because they decided to look into an owl's nest themselves. The result was immediate. Although maybe the pigeons just want to fight, they seem to make these visits to owls a habit. They're not even afraid of leopards, and owls can attack even this spotted cat. It's true, the leopard doesn't back down either, and if it gets angry, it can break open a tree hollow and get to those pesky birds. Now you know what these small nocturnal predators are capable of, and I hope you found it interesting and that you didn't get tired of watching such a long video. At the word seagull, many of us immediately think of the sea, the sun, the sand, the beach, well, or at least just the sea. And that would be correct, as they are an integral part of the seascape. But they live not only on the shores of seas, but also rivers, lakes, and even swamps. So their habitat is very wide. It's easier to say that you definitely won't find a seagull high in the mountains, the desert, or in dense jungles. Some species are migratory and fly south to warmer climes in winter. Others are sedentary. Many seagulls have also remained on the paths, animals living near humans, reaping the benefits of this. By the way, cockroaches, house mice, bedbugs, and many other creatures do the same. It's just that this kind of neighborhood is unlikely to please anyone because of the seagull's difficult temper and very loud voices. Recognizing this bird is very easy. It's usually a large bird with white or gray plumage, long wings, and a powerful yellow or white beak. The beak is usually curved at the tip, which helps the seagull hunt and catch food. Its legs have well-developed webbing, which is used for its intended purpose, to swim and dive for prey. Lake species are not large in size and usually weigh 200 to 400 grams. Seagulls are much larger and thicker, reaching 30 inches in size and up to 5 pounds in weight. The seagull's diet is very diverse. It can literally eat anything, including bread, sausage, and ice cream. But the basis of the menu is still animal food, which has to be hunted. Despite their noisy and difficult nature, seagulls are respected by many locals, all because of one characteristic. The fact is, these birds are not at all squeamish about eating carrion. They clean the sea coasts of the remains of fish, crabs, jellyfish, and other creatures washed ashore. If humans weren't around, rats would be in full swing on the beaches. But still, these birds prefer to beg for food from people. And if that doesn't work, you can just go to the store and take what you want. If you had to describe a seagull's character in one word, bold would be the perfect choice. They fear nothing, easily fight each other over food, and attack other nests. They're definitely not known for being kind birds. Let's take a look at what a seagull is capable of. Seagulls are great fishermen, but they don't catch fish the way you think. The easiest way is to simply watch for fish in the water and grab them with their beak when the time is right, like this small seagull did. It's not so easy to eat a fish in the water though, and the seagull loses its lunch. Here, a seagull took it a step further. It doesn't eat the thrown bread, but breaks it into small pieces to attract the fish. And soon it gets lucky. This must be a smart seagull because it immediately heads to the shore with its catch and eats it there. Seagulls can even lure the fish. Usually one seagull will fly over the lake and drop breadcrumbs into the water. After that, other seagulls come to the pond and fishing begins. If the fish are swimming deep, you need to fly up to reach them. Here, this seagull got lucky and caught a fairly large fish for itself. As a good fisherman, it drags its catch to shore to start its meal there. Well, if the fishing isn't working, you can try to steal fish straight from the hook. It doesn't always work though. Sometimes you get seagull gourmands who like to indulge in seafood. For example, this seagull caught a lamprey and is going to eat it. Despite the fairly large size of the catch, the seagull has no difficulty eating it. And this seagull has crab for lunch today. It's covered in a hard shell, but nothing can stand up to a powerful beak. Even claws are useless here. But not all seagulls love such delicacies. They say you have to grow into them. And this seagull has mussels for lunch. It just picks up the shell and throws it on the dock. It does this several times until the shell breaks or opens. But in this world, everything is interconnected. Because of the bivalve, a cephalopod might seek revenge. Sometimes, oddly enough, seagulls become victims of octopus attacks. It's nearly impossible to fight off such an attack. Taking flight with such a weight is also impossible, and you're left just trying to stay afloat and hope the octopus lets go. To be fair, such cases are quite rare. So you can consider this unique footage. As you've already understood, fishing is a pretty dangerous thing, and some seagulls switch to other prey. This seagull is not swimming near the shore for no reason. It doesn't need the bread that vacationers throw. Its target is unsuspecting pigeons. The seagull picks out its target and prepares for the attack. It pretends to leave, but then immediately changes direction and attacks the pigeon. Just look at this. The pigeon was lucky this time, but the seagull doesn't give up and succeeds on the second try. This pigeon can't be helped anymore. Did you know that seagulls, just like snakes, can swallow prey that's huge for them whole? Neither wings nor even a tail will be an obstacle for this. A raven is another bird that can compete with a seagull for the title of the main scavenger, and for boldness. Here, it noticed how the seagull found something tasty and hurried to get its share. At some point, the seagull turns away, and the raven tries to drag away the prey. But not so fast. There are a lot of seagulls on the shore, and even such seemingly nondescript food isn't left unattended, though the raven manages to have a little snack. This is another example of raven cunning. First, it tries to take the food from the seagull, but it doesn't work. Then it carefully approaches sideways, closer and closer, and seizing the right moment, quickly grabs the food and immediately flies away. After such actions, it becomes clear why ravens and seagulls don't like each other. And when they meet, the one with the numerical advantage wins. Seagulls rarely get along with penguins either. Although they don't attack the birds themselves, they will never refuse to steal and eat their eggs. In retaliation, penguins like to watch seagulls fight and peck them with their beaks while they fight. It's a shame that they get bored of it quickly. Ducks also dislike seagulls, especially when ducklings are around. As soon as the mother sees a seagull approaching, she immediately attacks and starts pecking at it. She doesn't stop until the seagull is a safe distance from her family. And you'll understand why this duck acts the same way a little later. It climbs on top of the seagull, bites it, and tries to drown it. If the seagull doesn't fly away immediately, it could die in such a battle. But ducks aren't the only ones who do this. Swans desperately defend their brood. They have strong wings that deliver a stunning blow. Swans don't allow uninvited guests to rise and drown them with powerful blows. At one point, it seems like the seagull is dead. But as soon as the swan turns away, it immediately flips over and takes to the air. And this is what happens when no one stops the seagull. These birds don't shy away from even attacking small mammals. For example, here a seagull grabs a squirrel and shakes it from side to side. Then it just picks up the animal and swallows it whole. And here it found a dead rabbit and ate it whole too. I don't even know how it will be able to take off now. These birds have no limit to their audacity. Why hunt when you can simply steal someone else's prey? The seagull is not afraid to even attack predators like a peregrine falcon to get its share. This huge seagull managed to drive away the falcon to feast on its prey. Size matters. After that, I'm not surprised that seagulls can attack pelicans, trying to take their fish away. The pelican is bigger, but that doesn't stop the seagull at all. It clung to the prey tightly and wouldn't let go. Only when reinforcements arrived for the pelican did the seagull have to retreat. Cats also suffer from such unceremonious neighbors. Here, a cat was in no hurry to eat its fish, and as a result, it lost it. And this audacious seagull took a liking to the cat food. It approaches the cat and with a light movement of its beak takes the can away. After that, it calmly places it on the ground and starts eating. But cats don't remain in debt. Sometimes they take revenge on their thieves. People shouldn't underestimate seagulls and leave their belongings unattended either. This is probably the case when the footage shot by the seagull turned out to be the best from the vacation. You might think that no bird likes a seagull, but that's not true. Some predators are happy to hunt these plump birds, and so a falcon decided to catch one. He did it right on the beach, flying away from his owner. I don't know the seagull's fate after that, and these are unique footage of a weasel attacking a seagull. And the action takes place on water. The seagull manages to shake off the beast, but it can't take flight. The weasel swims beautifully and catches up to its prey again, starting over. Sharp teeth against a powerful beak. Who will win? The fierce battle continues for several minutes, but the weasel, after another blow, decides to retreat. Meet the peregrine falcon, a superbird capable of reaching speeds over 300 kilometers per hour, not just while accelerating, but while hunting as well. But how does this bird, the size of a crow, achieve such speeds, and more importantly, withstand them? Let's break it down. Everything about the falcon's body is designed to make it a masterful hunter. Take its wings, for example. Unlike other birds of prey, they're quite narrow. This prevents them from soaring as long and effectively as eagles, but it gives the falcon phenomenal stability in the airstream. The sharp shape of its wings creates fewer eddies, allowing the falcon to fly effortlessly both with and against the wind. By the way, the name of the genus itself comes from the word fax, which translates to sickle. The backward curved shape of the falcon's wings perfectly reflects this meaning. But that doesn't stop the falcon from flying far and wide. They can fly up to 20,000 kilometers in a year. All you need to know about this bird is that it's extremely unpretentious and settles at altitudes up to 13,000 feet, making it widely distributed. You can find the peregrine falcon on every continent except Antarctica. It favors areas near steep riverbanks, on cliffs and other high vantage points, but it can also settle in cities. It often chooses church roofs and other tall buildings as its home. And now we move on to the super predator's second ability, vision. The term falcon's eye has long become a common expression, and for good reason. They boast extraordinary sharpness of vision. For example, it can spot a moving pigeon from 8 kilometers away. A special ciliary muscle changes the shape of its lens faster and stronger than in mammals. But it's hard to see this because the falcon's iris is very dark. This, incidentally, protects its eyes from bright sunlight, allowing it to stare at the sun for longer periods. And its cornea is one of the thickest among birds. This protects the falcon's eyes during a dive, as any small particle could damage them. Of course, the falcon also boasts binocular vision with a 160-degree field of view. This helps it keep its prey in check, even during a dive. Furthermore, falcons, like eagles, can focus on 2 targets at once, even if they're at different distances. And of course, the peregrine falcon has a third transparent eyelid that cleans and moisturizes the eye's surface without impairing its vision. Like any bird of prey, the falcon's talons are its primary weapons. They're large, massive, and strongly curved inward, which helps them hold their prey in flight. When a falcon accelerates and attacks, its prey often loses its head. The falcon deliberately aims for the head as it's the most vulnerable part of the body. But unlike other birds of prey, it doesn't finish its prey off with its talons. The falcon uses its beak for that purpose. Sharp as a scalpel, powerful, strongly curved, the beak dispatches its prey in seconds. Moreover, there's a special tooth on the upper beak that easily penetrates the victim's neck and damages the spinal cord. The entire surface of the beak has something resembling small teeth. Thanks to its beak, the falcon can handle prey much larger than itself. despite its small size. Male falcons only weigh 600–700 grams, and females, as is typical for birds of prey, are heavier, but they still don't exceed 1,300 grams, and their wingspan barely exceeds a modest 3 feet. But its mastery is truly impressive, because this little guy can outperform larger relatives. During a chase, the falcon rapidly flaps its wings and can maneuver excellently to catch its prey. This aerial fighter's horizontal flight speed can reach 60 miles per hour. That's not bad, you might say, but it's comparable to swallows and even some pigeons. So it's not always enough to bring down prey. Then the falcon changes tactics and soars into the sky. Spotting its target, it folds its wings and dives straight down like a stone. Its body assumes the perfect aerodynamic shape, and the falcon accelerates to 300 feet per second, or 200 miles per hour. Any other bird's lungs would simply burst from such a speed, but the falcon is adapted to it. Look at its nostrils. Don't they remind you of something? These are special cone-shaped growths that, like in aircraft engines, distribute the airflow and reduce its pressure. So such speed doesn't affect the bird's condition at all. A few meters from the target, it pulls out of its dive, spreading its wings and unfurling its long tail. The falcon still has tremendous speed, but it's now able to maneuver to strike. Studies have shown that the falcon sees its target best at a 40-degree angle. Therefore, this curved pursuit of prey yields the best results, and one precise hit is usually enough to knock the prey to the ground. Although the falcon can intercept smaller prey, like a pigeon, in the air, all its movements are so precise and calculated that it seems like a radio-controlled missile. And of course, the peregrine falcon can chase after a car going at a moderate speed, without even resorting to a dive. But in a dive, it can catch up to skydivers in freefall, and they've actually conducted experiments with this bird. On top of everything else, they are excellent parents who form lifelong pairs and care for their offspring together. The falcon's mating season begins in April. To win a female's favor, the male presents her with food. He often even feeds his chosen one himself. This courtship can last for weeks before the female allows him close. The courtship period ends with this sound. The female usually lays 3 or 4 eggs, a couple of days apart, and starts incubating them. And after 33–35 days, cute, fluffy little falcons are born. Then the parents take turns going out to hunt for food. Both parents typically participate in feeding, but the male more often brings food to the female, and she divides the food equally among everyone. Sometimes they even catch exotic birds in their talons. But sometimes the females don't feed their chicks enough. So, in breeding centers, these chicks are taken away and fed by humans. They become imprinted, meaning they consider humans to be their own kind. When these chicks grow up, they might even attack humans, mistaking them for prey. Needless to say, it's impossible to release imprinted falcons into the wild. So they stay in the breeding centers, but they can produce offspring. And as parents, imprinted falcons are no different from regular falcons. Now let's take a look at the peregrine falcon in action. Pigeons are the primary target for falcons in temperate zones. There are many of them everywhere, and the falcon can even choose its prey. Look how quickly the falcon intercepted the pigeon. It grabbed the pigeon firmly in its talons, and there's no escaping now. Here are a few more attacks like this. They show how precisely this winged fighter operates, and the pigeons in these encounters are helpless. Falcons often use pigeons to train their young. They release a pigeon, and one of the youngsters has to catch it before it hits the ground. It looks pretty cruel, but that's the only way falcons learn to hunt. True, some pigeons are just off. They pull off such crazy maneuvers in the air that even the peregrine falcon can't catch them. And here's another pigeon on turbo mode. Look at this. It's dodging the falcon's attacks and even trying to shake the predator off its tail. The pigeon flies into the frame of a greenhouse trying to escape. And that's where the falcon, with its large wings, gets stuck, giving the pigeon a chance to get away. An attack, but the pigeon evades it. A second attack, but it also misses. This pigeon just showed off some real masterclass skills. And it's not the only one. This is another example of a pigeon's incredible skill. It immediately tries to gain altitude and be higher than the falcon. The falcon can't catch its prey, even in a dive. The distance between them shrinks slowly. The pigeon maneuvers brilliantly, leading the hunter on a wild goose chase. Only when its strength runs out does it try to hide in a building, which, of course, the falcon takes advantage of. The birds are separated, and they both fly away like true champions. The peregrine falcon can hunt crows in the same way. It doesn't particularly like them, but it might attack due to a lack of food. And there usually aren't the same problems with crows that there are with pigeons. But it most loves to hunt ducks. Although they fly fast, they typically fly in a straight line. So you can just fly up and grab the duck in the air without diving. Ducks always gather in large flocks, which only makes things easier for the feathered predator. Look how quickly it attacks, delivering crushing blows with its talons. And one strike is immediately followed by 2 more. First, let's watch this video in real time. Did you understand what happened? Let's watch it again. Even in slow motion, the falcon attacked the duck so quickly that it had no chance. And then, like a master, it approached its trophy. And this isn't a one-off occurrence. Especially if a duck lands far from its flock, the feathered hunter has its eye on it. This is a bustard, and it acts very skillfully. If in danger, it hides its head down and raises its wings. That's why the falcon misses. But the bird's nerves give way, and it decides to fly. That was a big mistake because it has no chance in the air. The predator accelerates and attacks the bustard right in the back. And there's nothing left to do. But even large birds are in danger when this fighter is around, especially if the falcon has chicks. It won't be afraid of a group of pelicans. Spotting danger, the falcon immediately takes off to intercept. It attacks one pelican and it falls into the water. Then the falcon goes in for a second round and hits the second pelican. A precise hit, and the second pelican is in the water too. All this might look brutal, but pelicans can reach the falcon's nest and easily eat all the chicks. So it's better to act preemptively. Even a red-tailed hawk can suffer from this aerial interceptor. The falcon attacks the uninvited guest with such force that the hawk loses consciousness for a moment. It's a good thing he managed to recover after falling. But hawks, it can even attack eagles. This bald eagle decided to fly near the falcon's nest and paid the price. The falcon won't back down from its goal until the eagle flies away. But the eagle, by the way, is also pretty good and meets the little bird with its talons. And for the falcon, it's a dangerous opponent. That's why, whenever possible, eagles try to attack in pairs. This way, they disorient the enemy and prevent it from preparing for a counterattack. True, there's one enemy that the falcon can't handle. It's the Virginia owl. This cunning hunter attacks at night when falcons have very poor vision. Look, the falcon didn't see the owl until the last moment and wasn't ready for the attack. Plus, the owl is considerably larger and can easily snatch chicks from the nest without engaging in a fight with the mother. Within a few minutes, the owl came back for a second chick and then a third time. But here, the mother shielded her chick and the owl dragged her away. Unfortunately, the fate of the falcon and the surviving chick is unknown. As you can see, there are laws of nature in the wild, and we have no power to influence them. And I hope you found it interesting, and you didn't get tired of watching such a long video. I'd appreciate it if you would rate it and share your thoughts about this fighter in the comments. Since eagles often live in mountainous terrain, their prey are animals grazing on the slopes. And for each, the predator uses different strategies. For example, a small kid goat can't do anything against an eagle. The bird simply hovers over it, waiting for the right moment, and then the eagle grabs the prey and tries to take off with it. Just a second later, the eagle is soaring in the sky with the kid goat in its claws. In short, thanks to powerful wings, eagles can lift a fairly heavy weight. For example, in this old video, an eagle attacked a small child and lifted him into the air for a few seconds. But soon he released his prey, and everything ended well. But let's get back to our goats. If the prey is heavier, then the eagle changes tactics. It tries to grab it and throw it off the cliff. But this goat turned out to be not so simple. It tries to shake off the predator, and then it itself rushes down the slope. Here they fall and hit the rocks, but the eagle doesn't loosen its claws and they rush down again. You can see how the eagle tries to take off, but the prey is too heavy. The second fall on the rocks, and only then does the predator release its prey. This time, luck is not on its side. But here's what happens if the prey is standing on the edge of a cliff. The eagle simply grabs it with its claws and throws it down. It may seem cruel, but the predator needs to eat too. Some species of eagles specialize in fish. For example, the bald eagle does, for which it is the main source of food. Thanks to excellent eyesight, it notices fish near the surface of the water. And then it's just a matter of technique, or rather, its sharp claws. Of course, such hunting looks very impressive. Sometimes its prey is so large that it can't take off. It has to swim in the water to the nearest stone, on which it can show off its trophy. And bald eagles are not the only ones capable of doing this. Other types of eagles can also catch fish in this way. And not just fish, but for example, snakes. Notice how skillfully the bird grabs dangerous prey closer to the head. Eagles are quite the trolls, and they never miss a chance to show how everyone else is inferior to them. This heron couldn't catch a fish, and an African fish eagle was sitting on a tree nearby, unable to contain its laughter. Then it jumped into the water and showed its neighbor how to hunt. It even brought the fish right to its nose. Then it flew away with its catch. But that wasn't the end of it. The eagle continued to mock the poor heron, preventing it from fishing. And of course, how could we not show the dogs who's the top hunter of hares here? Watch how skillfully he flies up to the dog and pushes it down. It's clear to see that the eagle didn't want to grab the dog, but simply to gently eliminate the competition. And here, the eagle simply skillfully showed the dogs how to hunt a hare. And he's so cool that the dogs don't dare to touch his prey. They probably know what will happen if they anger the eagle. But catching a hare isn't always easy either. You can immediately see that this is an experienced long ear. Just look at him, how expertly he jumped over the eagle. The second attack, but again the hare escapes from the predator's clutches. It may seem that the eagle is young and inexperienced, but that's not the case. Look how sharply the predator cuts off the hare. But the long ear manages to escape again. True, in the end, the eagle caught up to the tired hare. The hare's skull is cushioned by special vertebrae, which allows it to get a stable image even at high speed. Therefore, he always knows when it's best to jump. And on the ground, the eagle won't be able to catch up to its prey. But if it silently approaches from behind, the hare will not be able to hide. Foxes can also easily become prey for the winged hunter. It's just unclear how the eagle at such a speed against the background of grey stones notices a hare in the grey thicket. But we must give this predator its due for its keen eyesight. And this fox caught a rabbit and was already about to have dinner, when suddenly, a moment later, the eagle grabbed both of them. And it didn't just grab them, it flew away with such a load. But after a while, in the thick of the forest, it released the fox, but not the rabbit, and thanks for that. Foxes won't miss a chance to steal something from eagles either. And this time, despite the bird's attack, the fox gets its way. They can even climb into eagle nests, hoping to find something to eat. But this time, the parents are on the lookout. And this is what a face-to-face confrontation between these predators looks like. Just look at the fox's stare. Even the golden eagle decided not to mess with it. Wolves are also in danger when eagles are flying nearby, because a large eagle can easily stop a wolf alone, pinning the predator to the ground. It spreads its wings so the wolf can't turn it over. At the same time, the eagle can protect the carcass and withstand even two wolves. Well, of course, you can do it this way, taking a tasty morsel from the coyote. What wolves? Even bears sometimes get a taste of these birds. It's not clear what the eagle was counting on when it attacked this grizzly. Although most likely in this way, they drive bears away from the nest because they are never against having a snack. Of course, it's better to build the nest at a height. In this unusual video, an eagle attacks an Australian boxer, a kangaroo. At the same time, you can see that the prey is clearly not up to the task, but the hunter doesn't lose optimism, attacking again and again. And it does so as a group, by prior agreement. Birds are also not thrilled with such neighbors. For example, these capercaillies were sorting things out when one of them was attacked by an eagle. Oddly enough, the second capercaillie did not abandon its comrade, but almost immediately attacked the eagle. Unfortunately, it paid the price for this, but honestly, I didn't expect such behavior from birds. And these golden eagles hunt cranes. They work in pairs to separate a crane from the flock. And then it's just a matter of technique. Having successfully fended off the first hunter, it ends up in the clutches of another and the birds fall down. During this time, the eagle needs to immobilize the victim and comfortably grab it. This crane finished its flight, and even in zoos, these predators don't calm down. Even sitting in a cage, they manage to annoy other residents. For example, this eagle threw a piece of meat closer to the grate and waited. As soon as the heron stuck its beak through, the predator immediately grabbed it with its claws. These are truly cunning and intelligent birds. Even people can have their lives ruined by these feathered creatures. For example, here eagles attacked a paraglider, and one of them got tangled in the ropes. Fortunately, the paraglider brought a second parachute with him. In the end, everyone survived. The eagle, freed, immediately flew away without even saying thank you. And even if someone dares to attack such giants in the air, they will receive a worthy rebuff. Look how skillfully the bald eagle turned around, meeting the red-tailed hawk, and grabbed it with its claws. The eagle is an astonishingly beautiful and strong bird, inspiring both fear and respect. A predator, soaring for hours over the earth, capable of attacking animals several times its size. And this is despite the fact that eagles are a large bird, reaching a body length of 35 inches, and their wingspan is up to 8 feet. These beauties weigh a considerable amount for a bird, up to 16 pounds. Moreover, females are larger and heavier than males. There are about 60 species in the eagle family, and they are found on all continents except Antarctica. For example, the golden eagle, also known as the royal eagle, is common in Eurasia. In Africa, the Marshall, Crowned, and Verreaux's eagles are in charge. North America is represented by the bald eagle, which is also the symbol of the United States, and the formidable harpy eagle inhabits South America. Well, of course, in Australia, the wedge-tailed eagle rules the roost. The appearance of these birds immediately makes it clear that it's best not to mess with them. A sturdy, powerful body with dense plumage and very large wings. It sometimes even seems like they are disproportionately large. But wings are everything for a bird, and the eagles are very functional. This wing shape allows the bird to fly in strong winds, and even during a hurricane. After all, eagles can rise to a height of 30,000 feet, and the air currents there are very strong. At the ends of the wings, like fingers, there are separate large feathers. They provide better lift and prevent tipping over when braking. And of course, the size of the eagle. Even when folded, the wings extend beyond the chest line. These wings provide immense lift and are only used to gain altitude or speed up during attack. And this bird flies very fast. While in the air, it can reach speeds of 125 miles per hour, and when diving during an attack, that number increases to 200. Just imagine that. Although if you look from the ground, it seems like the eagle is just hovering motionlessly in the air. But that's just an optical illusion. It's amazing how easily such a giant stays in the air, and this is not least because of the bird's very light skeleton. The beak is one of the creature's calling cards. It is very large and has a formidable hooked shape. However, it plays a supporting role in hunting and is more intended for tearing off pieces of meat. But the main weapon of attack is unusually long and strong claws, which are on equally long legs, and even in pants of feathers. 3 front and 1 rear claw provide a deadly grip, and it's very difficult to shake yourself loose from an eagle. After all, the bird has an incredible claw compression strength, 15 times higher than that of a human hand. An interesting fact about the eagle's beak and claws is that they grow throughout its life. The internet is rife with the opinion that by the age of 40, eagles tear out their claws and break their beak as they become very long and prevent the predator from hunting. However, this is actually a myth. After all, claws and beaks are constantly worn down during hunting naturally. There has never been a record of an eagle in the wild with claws too large to hunt with. And in captivity, birds are always taken care of, controlling the size of their beaks and claws. Moreover, 40 years is the maximum lifespan for many eagle species. Only some of them live to 50 or 60 years. That's the way it is. The image of the predator is completed by huge eyes, giving the bird incredible sharpness of vision. An eagle can spot the movement of a hair from almost a kilometer in altitude. The bird's eyeball is larger than its brain, and an eagle sees 6 times sharper than a human. And besides, the bird can focus on 2 objects at once. True, all this is true during the day. The bird's night vision is poor, and its hearing is even worse. And last but not least is the sense of smell. Although why would it need it with such eyesight, right? The eyelids of this war machine can also surprise you. The eagle has transparent eyelids, nictitating membranes, that protect the eyes from dust and air currents, as well as thick eyelids that the bird closes when it sleeps. And all this good stuff is controlled by a very mobile neck, which allows it to cover a range of about 270 degrees. What else does a successful hunter need? These formidable feathered creatures build their nests as high as possible. This is necessary for better control of the terrain and lower costs during hunting. Moreover, some eagle species, for example, Marshall eagles, settle no less than 30 miles apart, which is the lowest population density among birds. Incidentally, such a pair owns an area of more than 1,000 square kilometers. The nest is built over many years and gets wider and deeper with each passing year. The largest nest reached a diameter of 3 meters, a depth of 6 meters, and weighed about 3 tons. Such a structure can only be built by caring parents, and eagles are an example for many animals. They create their pair once and for life, raising their chicks together. Usually, the male is responsible for finding food, while the female guards the chicks and rebuilds the nest in between, although some species of eagles hunt in pairs. Usually, the female lays 2 or 3 eggs, the first of which is larger than the rest. The chick hatched from it will try to break or push other eggs out of the nest, and if its siblings have hatched, it will take food from them. About 70% of the second chicks die in the first 2 weeks. At 3 to 4 months, the first flight from the nest occurs, and the young start hunting on their own only at 10 months. That's all. I hope it was interesting and you weren't tired of watching such a long video. I'd be glad if you'd write your opinion of these beautiful birds in the comments, and in general, thank you to all users who rate and write comments. Guys, you're awesome. It's you who help the channel move in the right direction, and I really appreciate the feedback, and this video has come to an end. See you in the next video. Bye.